Welcome to Only Murders in My Mind, a Random Thought production. Hi, I'm Carol Bissett, a crime writer, and I invite you with my co-presenters, Liz Hedgecock and Mike Jackson, each week to our conversations on all things murderous. Hello everyone, and welcome to this episode of Only Murders in My Mind. And as usual, I have the lovely Liz Hedgecock.
Hello.
And the marvellous Mike Jackson. Sorry for laughing.
Hello, Carol. But I don't know why. Whenever Carol introduces me, there's a pause while she's trying to think of the right adjective to put before my name, and then laughter.
Would you prefer a drum roll or a badumtish?
I
or
don't know.
something?
I think just hello,
a cymbal
you.
sound. We
Hello,
can put
you
one
in the corner would probably suffice.
Oh no! Wait,
Nobody puts Mike Jackson in the corner.
No, that's true.
We'll give you a watermelon.
We are a trio. We operate with each other.
That sounds painful.
It just doesn't.
Sometimes
Yeah.
in spite of each other.
But yeah, we just bounce off each other. So none of this, as you might well know, none of this is rehearsed.
Can you imagine if we'd spent hours getting it just like this?
It's just
Yeah. This is take 25, We're so
Yes.
happy we finally got it.
I would like to point out we have a really good editor.
Who we work extremely hard.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So this episode is about detectives as anti-heroes, and we have them, we know them, we love them. They just make the stories much more rich, and I'm just going to throw it open to the floor. Who
Okay.
would like to start?
What I'm going to say is, if you think about Agatha Christie and you think of Poirot or Marple, they're not at all
Typical.
They're not,
flawed.
aren't they?
Yeah,
No.
just saying.
They're
So-
perfect.
Mm.
They have foibles.
I'm just trying to think of other ones from the Golden Age. So you have Inspector Alleyn, you have Lord Peter Wimsey, you have Alan Grant from Josephine Tay, and they're all very,
Straight-laced.
very sorted. you
Yeah.
know?
But I wonder if
so
that's...
is it a modern phenomenon?
Well, I don't know. If you go back to Poirot,
Mm.
could you argue that he is flawed because he
But
is...
does it get in the way of the cases?
No, but his perfection is not the norm.
No.
So that makes him not necessarily a flawed detective, but a different detective because of his foibles, because of his personality, because of the way that he acts.
Mm.
Yeah, he's got. He's sort of. What would they call it these days, where everything's got to be perfect and clean and OCD?
OCD,
maybe?
yeah.
Slightly like that.
Yeah,
Wasn't
he loves order and method, doesn't
He
he? I mean,
does.
that's a great strength for him as a detective. Is whether it ever actually impedes him.
No,
don't
but then
know.
again, I mean, one of the ones I was going to mention is
Oh, yes.
somebody like Luther, John Luther.
Oh, yes,
that's
go
a
on.
brilliant one. Yeah.
You know, because you would say he was almost an anti-hero because
Yeah.
he kicks against the
Mhm.
rules, does
Yes.
things his own way.
Dangles people from balconies
can say-
and then lets go.
See, now Poirot would never do
Yeah.
that. I mean, for one thing, he wouldn't be able to pick him up.
But he can be a bit violent.
Hastings, come and dangle this man for me.
Yes, yeah. Yes. Miss Lemon, what are you doing? Stop dangling that man over the balcony.
You're disarranging his turn-ups.
But no, John Luther. I think of people like John Luther, and you almost think to yourself, there wouldn't be much for him to become the criminal rather than the detective.
He walks a very fine line.
Yeah. And that's why I think it falls into this sort of anti-hero, they've got flawed personalities.
Mm.
But you're on his side, aren't you? Nearly 90% of the time with Luther, you want him to win, and every now and again you're going, he's gone a bit far now.
Yeah.
That's a bit, too much sort of thing.
But was Sherlock Holmes like that? Like could Sherlock, when you think of how Sherlock Holmes, he wasn't solving the mysteries to do good. He was solving the mysteries because they were a mystery.
Yeah.
So
As a satisfaction.
as a
thing, you could
satisfaction.
say.
So if he'd not got his satisfaction that way, would he have got his satisfaction from being a master criminal?
Yes, because again,
Probably.
he was very much like Moriarty.
Yes.
That they were two sides of the
Yeah.
same coin, weren't
So
they?
so a flawed character in many ways.
Mm.
I hadn't really thought about it like that, but you're right. Yeah.
Yes, and there's also his drug habit.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And his
Yeah.
habit of just going into a torpor when there were no cases.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
very much, this is the thing that keeps him going.
Yeah. Had no time for other people.
Like
He
a
was-
compulsion.
He was happy when somebody got murdered. That's not good, really. is it?
Like in the series where it's like, it's like Christmas. And he
Yes.
gets all excited.
Yeah. Oh.
Mm.
I've got one here, which is Martin Road. Now we're going back to the Bridge, which is one of my favourite detective series from Denmark and Sweden.
Yes.
So I'm just having the past said that this starts off with a body that was cut in two on the bridge that links the two countries. And I can't remember how I said the body was cut last time, dissected. It was actually cut at the waist. And let me get this right. The top half was a Swedish politician and the bottom half was a Danish prostitute. So somebody was definitely sending a message about politicians there, weren't they? Do you know what I mean? And this Martin he came across because he was paired up with Saga, who was the detective from. I was trying to think.
Swedish.
Right,
Saga
yeah.
was-
Saga was Danish.
No, Swedish.
Was this
Swedish.
a series with all the knitwear?
Yes.
Ah, excellent.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah. Saga was
See what my
Swedish.
interests lie here.
Martin was Danish.
Jumpers.
And he was the opposite to her because she is on the autistic spectrum and is very to the point and honest, to the point of being brutal. And he was the softer side of the two.
Mm-hmm.
However, he had issues, and the one that came across most in the first series was the fact that he was being unfaithful to his lovely wife who had, lovely children. And this came as a bit of a shock to us. And he does actually fall from grace spectacularly, but I won't give you any spoilers about that. But he came across as this really nice person, and he had this dark underside, which we started seeing as the layers were stripped away, rather than like Luther. With Luther from the get-go, he is someone to be frightened of. Both as a criminal and probably as a police officer, because he did get things done, but in his way.
I think that's what we like. I mean, it made me think, as you were talking, of John Rebus.
Yes, yeah,
Yes.
Alcoholic,
yeah,
doesn't, ignores authority, does it his way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't mind bending the rules.
In some ways, it feels like, if you've got a police detective there, they are bound to have some kind of, substance problem or some kind of, compulsion or something going on. It's like you read psychological thrillers, and if it's a police procedural type, there's going to be like a female police inspector who, whatever, can't compartmentalize, even get my teeth in her work. Doesn't spend time with her family, possibly drinks too much, whatever. It's like feels like almost a standard trope of the genre.
But I suppose if you're working, if you're working in that sort of environment, it is going to be so stressful.
Yes.
It is, but if you take somebody like John Rebus, the character that comes across is somebody that will always bend the rules to suit himself.
Yeah.
Even if it means dragging other people down with
Yeah.
him or upsetting other people.
Yeah.
And whereas you get other detectives or fictional detectives like Lewis, you can't imagine them ever acting like that. They would always follow the police procedures, the party line.
He was very straight-laced as well, wasn't he,
Yeah.
about the way things were done and everything.
And I don't know what it is because I think people are the Lewis of this world and the Morse of this world appeal to readers and to people who watch it on television, but then the John Rebus appeal to us as well. Must be for different reasons.
Yeah.
And it's less so the mysteries that they're solving. I think it's more the characters that we take to or don't.
Yeah. Yeah, well, one of Liz's books, the Book Barge and the which-
Jaden Fee, Booker
Yeah.
and Fitch.
Yeah, I mean, I'm invested in them as characters
Yeah.
now, and the fact that they solve crimes is just by the way. You know, I want to know what they're wearing and what type of
Oh, we put so
tea.
much effort into those crimes as well.
Oh, no,
I can't
they-
believe I'm hearing
The,
this.
the crimes are good.
Well, you know, one tries.
But but I feel I know, as I said before, I feel like I could go out for a drink with them too
Yeah.
and have a bit of a laugh.
Yeah. But you wouldn't go out for a drink with John Rebus.
No. Well, I might in a crowded pub.
But do you find that people like John Luther, Rebus, they tend to have a lot more violence
Yes.
around what they do?
Lupin's another one.
Lupin, yeah.
Yeah.
Harry Hole.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
the-
I've never read one of those. I would
Oh,
like
they're
to.
great.
Tell me about
Great
Harry
writer.
Hole.
Oslo Detective.
Ah.
Uh,
Does he have good knitwear?
Good knitwear. Well, funny enough, when you think of Luther, Rebus, Harry Hole, their dress sense is usually scruffy to the point of wearing something that they've been wearing for the last 10 years. You know, same old jacket, same old trousers.
I'm saying nothing at this
No.
point.
But they all have this sort of relentless. They want to get the job done. So if there is a horrific murder, they want to find the person who did it. They're driven by the
Is
right
it
to
by
do
any
good.
means possible?
Yes, so they're driven to do the right thing, but they don't want to get hampered by red tape and what have you. You know, if they can cut corners,
Yeah.
then they will.
Yeah.
And I think it's that flawed. It's that mixture, isn't it? You'd like to read about somebody who's doing good, and it's that bit of you that quite likes the flawed bit. You know, quite likes them cutting quite
Because
corners.
none of us are perfect, though. You know.
Well, speak for yourself.
I'd like to think I would. I wouldn't because I'm a scaredy pants. But I'd like to think if I was a detective, if it was going to make a big difference, I'd cut corners. I don't think I'd kill anybody or dangle them over a balcony. But you know, I think I'd try the old. Is that a baby you can hear crying in there? Oh, somebody's obviously in danger. We'll have to force an entry. I like it when they do that.
The other one that comes to mind is
So your
the
sort of low-level misdemeanors.
Yes.
the unorthodox and eccentric detectives. So
Sherlock's in there again.
Sherlock's
obviously.
in there.
Yeah.
That Saga,
Yes.
because of her autistic
Yeah.
tendencies, tends to be on that. Monk is another one.
Yes.
Fits
yes.
into that.
Yeah.
Um,
Slightly odd,
slightly,
Yeah.
but endearing in
Yeah.
a way.
Yeah.
You know.
Columbo. Remember Lieutenant
Oh yes.
Columbo?
Oh yes.
He
Yeah.
was always a bit odd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to add in as well, and I can't believe we've not mentioned him yet, Jackson Lamb.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 I mean, Columbo used
Season
to get
4
me.
coming soon.
Tell us a bit more about Jackson Lamb, because some people might not know that.
No,
So-
yeah.
Slow
Okay.
horses.
Oh, he runs Slough House, which is where all the failed spies and rejects from MI5. That's right, isn't it? They
Yes.
all hang out, and I mean, in that, it's a great concept because all of the characters, the main characters, have a flaw, which is why they're there in the first place.
And they don't
So-
get on.
Oh no,
There's
not at
there's
all.
no team as such.
Well,
The
they're
only-
all angry.
they're all angry. They're all
Because
together
they
in the
don't
same
get to
building.
play with the big proper spies
Yeah.
anymore. You know, they don't have all the tech, and you know, they're just condemned to do things like check the last 5 years of traffic events in Camden, or
Yeah.
you know, things like that.
It's that I must
Cross-reference what not against the phone. I mean, Jackson Lamb takes great pleasure in setting them terrible things to do. The idea is the service wants rid of them
Yeah.
because they don't want to pay them, but they cannot sack them.
So they want them to leave of their own volition.
Yeah, basically, they're trying to make life so unbearable for them that they will actually go.
Well, there's a mixture of that, and also they put them in this building that sort of is tucked away somewhere nobody's heard of, and it's
Yeah.
sort of almost out of sight, out of mind, you know. But if we put them all in
Yeah.
this building, we can just forget they exist.
Yeah.
You know.
It's like your police station where nobody goes anymore.
Oh, it's worse than that.
Oh yeah, right.
Well worse than
No, I was
that.
going to say about Columbo. One of the things I used to like about Columbo was the fact that he'd be very friendly to somebody he was interviewing and very sympathetic.
Yeah.
And then he always did this thing. He'd be walking away and he'd go, "Oh, can I just ask?" And there'd always be that one question that he'd ask that would throw the person who was usually the guilty party. And he'd just go, all right, and he'd walk away, and you could see them going, like, I'm really concerned now. What's going on here? Because he just throw, like a hand grenade into the room and then run out, sort of thing. So I used to like that.
The thing with Jackson Lamb is he's awful to his team.
Yes.
He's rude to them. He's abusive.
Yeah.
Yes,
there's nothing pleasant about him.
Not at all. No, but it's that thing. He has this belief of, my team are all Joes.
Yeah.
And therefore I have to look out for them because no one else is going to. So if it comes to, one of them against MI5 Regent's Park, he will support his team.
Yeah.
Except he won't let them know he's supporting.
Oh, of course not. No, not ever. And quite often he'll have something, he'll have a piece of information that gives him a hold over the people at the park, and he will use that.
I was wondering, with them being sort of MI5 and MI6, they haven't plotted to kill him.
I think when you read through it, I think there probably are some people there that would like to.
Oh, absolutely. They would love to be shot of him.
I've got, I don't know if anybody's watched the True Detective series on the television, but there was a detective in that called Rust Cole. He was a very good detective. He left no stone unturned. However, he was a hoarder, he was obsessive, and he drank heavily. So when he let those demons get a hold of him, he got thrown off a few cases, let's put it like that. So it was interesting because, right through that series, all the detectives were flawed. They all had, like you say, a backstory, Liz, that was like, they've been divorced 3 times, or their wife was murdered, or all these sorts of things coming into their psyche, and when you knew, you could go, oh well, I understand it, why they're like that now. Why they got that man up against the wall by the throat. It's fine, But that was a good series. Did either of you watch any of the True Detectives?
No, I didn't.
No, it was
That's the only thing with doing this podcast. It's like there's always something else that I should read that.
I should
watch
watch that.
Yeah, I mean, you've have you got any that you want to talk about? Any flawed detectives?
I've got Harry. Have you heard of? Let me find him. Harry Dresden.
Oh, is this the Dresden Files?
The Dresden Files by Jim Butcher.
Oh, go on, tell us about Harry Dresden.
He's a wizard. Well,
of course.
He's a private investigator and a wizard, and he advertises as a private investigator and a wizard. In
where does he advertise?
Chicago, modern day Chicago.
Okay.
But he's one of those. He's got a sort of dark past that comes out, and he uses his magic. But there was a I don't know what it's called, but there's like a magical commission, and there are certain things as a magician that he's allowed to do. So he always sort of pushes it to the boundary, if not quite breaks it. And there's one chap who keeps appearing in different stories, who just wants to kill him. But he's not a baddie as such, but he's from this magical commission. And because Dresden keeps breaking the rules, he comes along and says, oh, you've broken the rules again, and I've got this great big sword, and I'm going to chop your head off, because that's what happens to people. And Dresden always seems to sort of get out of it.
Possibly announcing that you're going to do it and showing them the big sword is a strategic fail.
I think the thing, and it annoys this guy all the time, because he thinks, you're breaking the rules, and because of the rules, you should be executed, you should be killed. And Dresden always comes up with some way of just...
That sounds interesting.
Getting by it.
Yeah.
And that's just one part of it. And of course, it's like any sort of wizard, they get all sorts of weird and wonderful things happening, because once you're getting into the world of fantasy, anything can happen. I mean, for example, you can't get into his house because he has all sorts of spells and things on the door.
Wards. Yes.
Great. There are about, I think last time, there must be 17 or 18 books in the series. But it's certainly one well worth.
And that's called?
It's the author is Jim Butcher.
Yeah. And
they are the Dresden Files. Harry Dresden.
I think again that goes back to that. They shouldn't be able to get away with it, but you kind of want them to.
Yes.
And it's infuriating, but also you are cheering them on. maybe a bit like, Benedict Cumberbatch's version of Sherlock.
Yes.
When he's being awful.
Obnoxious, yeah.
Yes, but at the same time you enjoy it. Well, I do anyway.
Yeah.
Well, just goes to show listeners that, I'm going to look at one of these books now. So we do actually, as Liz said, get ideas from each other about things we've never...
So do you have any anti-heroes or flawed detectives in your work, Carol?
Yes, not normally, but in this last book, For I Have Sinned, there is a detective who has got some issues, shall we say. I'm not going to give too much away because I'd like you to read it. But I wouldn't say she's always been... I mean, my books are heavily sort of female detectives. So that's not giving anything away. But she has always been reliable and good. But something life-changing happens to her, and she struggles, let's put it like that, to the point where she breaks the law, which is not like her at all. So I quite enjoyed that, writing that about, because all my detectives in the Warrington Detective have always been like goody two shoes, really. They've always done everything by.
Yeah, Wen's very.
Wen is very
books,
strict.
yes.
Yeah, she's very strict about how things are done, and the other detectives are as well, that she's got under her on her team. They're under her guidance, if you like. So yeah, I mean, they would never enter a property unless they thought there was real. Something really going on inside that was going to sort of, I don't know, endanger life, really.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to put it.
Isn't that part of it that we've talked in previous episodes about the whole business of when you're reading or into a really good novel, that sometimes you have to suspend belief. And when we go back to some of the people we've talked about before, about John Luther, Rebus and so on, they actually wouldn't survive in a modern police force, would they? Because they break the rules so much.
Yeah, they'd be up on a charge.
They'd be up on a charge, and they'd be kicked out.
They would.
So you almost have to sort of say, well, I know it's not real, but I like it. I don't want them to wait and go and get a warrant. I want them to kick the door down and get the chappie inside by the throat and get a confession out of him.
I think that's one of the reasons why I don't think I'd enjoy writing a police procedural, because the thing about writing with like amateur detectives or detectives operating privately is that they're not bound by quite the same rules.
Yes,
they're not.
Yes, they they should behave themselves, but sometimes it's very convenient for them to be able to do things that the police absolutely can't be seen to do.
Which is why something like going back to Harry Dresden, because you're setting it in he's a wizard. So a lot of the crime...
You're a wizard, Harry.
Yeah.
a lot of the crimes have a sort of magical part to them. Then you can do what you like, to a certain extent.
Within the rules of the magical
in the rules,
world,
yes. But police procedures and what have you, to a certain extent. I mean, he does work along... He's a consultant to the police as well. He works alongside the police. And that tension of him working alongside the police is an interesting one too.
Well, the Rivers of London.
Yes,
that is that type of thing. They are actually a police department, aren't
they?
They
are. Yeah,
and they look at all the supernatural things that are going on.
Yeah,
there's an awful lot there about the river, not demons, the river
goddesses.
Yes. Having a lot of influence on what goes on around them, sort of thing.
But the funny thing there is, I mean, that's that these books, by the way, are by Ben Aranovich. And the actual main person, whose name I can't for the life of me remember, Peter Grant, who is the young policeman who also has these magical powers, or is training.
Very hard training, isn't it?
He still sticks within the rules. He doesn't fall into the flawed character, really.
Why do you think that is? What's his function? Is he there as a kind of a window on the world?
I think he's there because the whole premise behind the series of books is that in London, within the world of crime within London, there is this undercurrent of criminal activity that is based on magic.
Mhm.
Can't be explained away,
Can't
it?
be explained away. So that's where he gets called into. So he doesn't get called into any run-of-the-day crimes, murder mysteries. He'll get called in if the crime happens to be, oh, we saw this 34-foot monster kill him, and the police will say, well, that's obviously ludicrous. Therefore, we'll get Peter Grant in because he deals with the ludicrous.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
So I think it's just taking normal life in London, in this case, but just adding in that underbelly of a
I mean,
magical
does that
world.
mean that kind of all bets are off in terms of what he can do? Does he have different procedures and a different rule book to your standard force?
Not really, because with this one, a bit like the Harry Dresden, they work alongside. He is a police officer within the Metropolitan Police, and they work alongside them. So sometimes he may very well have to wait for a warrant and what have you. But sometimes it's what they might see when they get into a building.
Right.
And they get a warrant to search somewhere and find that it's not the drugs that they're looking for, but these 3-foot goblins who've been...
These are not the goblins you're looking for,
Harry. It's funny because I watched, can't remember when, I think it was earlier this year, I watched some series and they all had a very similar theme where the detective could see ghosts. And the ghost, usually the ghost of a murdered person who was trying to give, and there was about 3 different series. One was in Italy around the time of the Second World War or just after the Second World War, and the other 2 were modern. And these detectives could, they were being haunted by these victims, if you like. That was interesting. But going back to Rebus, I've read quite a few of the books now, and I used to watch the series when it was on. I've seen the modern one. I quite like that. He's always under investigation.
Yes.
Always. The people that investigate the police in Scotland, I'm not quite sure what they call them, he was always under suspicion of not doing the right thing, of being connected to the mafia and all sorts of things.
Wow.
And they never quite proved anything. I think he got suspended a few times, but he never lost his job as far as I know.
No. It's almost as though because a reader might say, hang on, a policeman can't do that without being investigated. You almost wonder if Ian Rankin threw that in. Well, I better have him being interviewed
in a perpetual state,
in a suspended. Yeah. But in the real life, he wouldn't have had that many suspensions or that many investigations.
They probably wouldn't have had that many chances.
No, they would have got rid of him.
Yes,
but then that doesn't make a story.
No,
that doesn't make for a character. Yeah. And again, you don't know. I mean, I don't know when Ian Rankin wrote the first Rebus. Did he intend to have a series of books that went on and on and on and on?
Yeah, well, that's it, isn't it? It was popular. It's earned him his bread and butter.
Yeah.
And people love it. So you could be right, because we've discussed this before about famous writers not liking. I'm not saying that Ian Rankin doesn't like Rebus,
because he did write a last Rebus, and now he's back
again.
So
yeah. So that could just be that is the money pot that earns him his bread and butter. But we've talked about Conan Doyle and Agatha Christie not liking some of their characters and not wanting to kill them off.
Yeah. Yes. As a sort of aside,
I was following.
I was following the journey of someone on Twitter, or X, if you want to call it that, called Political Animal, and he does these amazing travel trips using trains usually or buses, and he recreated or went on again Holmes and Watson's journey to the Reichenbach Falls.
Oh, right.
Yes, and it is such fun with little videos of all the landscapes.
Oh, I must watch that.
So yes, if you want to look up Political Animal, and he talks about, he quotes from the books and all of that, and what train Holmes would have got and all of that. So yes, that is fascinating.
I have been to that hotel by the Reichenbach. It was
interesting.
a great train journey that Anne and I went on.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole hotel is just,
dressed up for it.
Well, not necessarily dressed up, but there are plaques like, home stayed here in.
Yes.
Another nice guy who had problems was Ted Hastings out of A Line of Duty.
Mm-hmm.
And I know probably the last 2 series that there was this Izzy H, which was somebody they were trying to catch. Izzy H. I'm not going to tell you whether he was or not, but he did have personal issues. He'd become bankrupt. He was living in a hotel, and his wife didn't want anything to do with him. So, there was that about him.
Yeah. But that's the discrepancy, isn't it, in a way? Because he was a flawed character, but not necessarily a flawed detective.
Yeah.
Because he very much stuck by the rules.
Yeah.
And that's what we've been discussing, isn't it? You can have, in some ways, going back to what we said right at the beginning, Hercule Poirot was different because of his, what we would call OCD, but that didn't make him a flawed detective, possibly.
He just needed a hanky to sit on every time he sat on a
yes,
bench.
yeah, he just made him a strange strange bloke.
Yeah, I
Sorry,
think it's time for a
I've
cup
got these
of tea,
new
Mike.
teeth. I've got these new teeth.
I think it's time for a cup of tea.
Quite possibly.
Yes. So yeah, we know them, we love them, and as I say, they make a lot of the stories much richer. We don't want detective stories to be boring, so these people, when we see them coming back, as you were saying about the horses,
Slow horses.
yeah, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
yes,
Oh, I cannot wait.
yeah. So we'll say goodbye now.
Just before we go,
Oh,
just a
yeah, sorry.
reminder
Sorry,
about,
Mike.
we love reviews and comments on YouTube, and also don't forget we've got the Only Murders in My Mind blog. Please go and have a look at it. onlymurdersinmymind.wordpress.com, and we put a writing prompt up every week. So if you'd like to have a go at the writing prompt, put a story up there. Maybe we could read it out one week.
Or just say hello or comment. So.
Yes.
Yes,
Interact with us.
We
Interact.
will get back
Talk
to
to
you.
us.
Yeah, talk to us. Is there anybody there?
Yeah.
And on that note.
On that ghostly note, yeah. So we'll see you all same time next week. Bye for now. You have been listening to Only Murders in My Mind, a Random Thought production, produced by John Bissett. The music in Peril was composed and recorded by OM Studio Strings.